everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Completely Kathy. If you're new here, please don't hesitate to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you can get weekly videos from me. If you didn't know, this channel is mostly about nursing, beauty, lifestyle, and fashion. Today's video is going to be a brief video about tips for new nurses or new grads. Just some tips that I think worked out for me when I was a new nurse. So I think will probably work out for you. So let's get started. It is completely normal to feel afraid when you're first starting out as a new nurse because this is a new experience for you. You've never done this before, even though you've been through school, through nursing school, but now this is the real deal. So it is totally fine to be anxious, afraid, everything. With me starting out, I know I was extremely nervous because I felt lost. I felt like I was in a new world, and everything that I learned, I felt like went out the window because I was so overwhelmed by my emotions, and just being on the floor by myself was just so overwhelming. I remember starting out, I would go in like trembling, like I was speechless because I felt like I didn't know anything. I felt incompetent. I felt stupid. And I didn't want to say too much. I felt like I didn't want to ask any questions because I was so afraid to be wrong. But it's totally normal. Tip number one, your first day, you're going to have a lot of information thrown at you. So it is best to have a notepad to take notes so that you don't have to ask your preceptor the same question over and over again. My preceptor wasn't too nice. So she wasn't too nice because she was so, I completely understood her because she was so overwhelmed with a lot of patients. She didn't have time for me. So what she did, I followed her around. I just followed everything she did. And she would only tell me something one time and I would just write everything down because I didn't want to ask her the same questions again. It was okay to ask questions, but she didn't like the same questions coming at her. So I made sure that I took notes. Make sure you have your cheat sheet too, so that when you forget something, you have it there. Number two is make sure you come prepared. Have many pens, not even have 15 pens in your pocket because nurses are like pen thieves. They're pen thieves. So even me, from time to time, like if I can't find a pen, I would take whatever pen that I see. We don't have time. So whatever we see in front of us, that's what we utilize. So make sure you have plenty of pens and make sure your supplies, your stethoscope, make sure you have everything with. Started out in dialysis. It was very complicated because with dialysis, you don't learn too much about dialysis in school. When I came out, I was thrown into that specialty and I didn't know anything about it. So I was going to work every day nervous. I felt like I needed to, poop on myself because I felt like it was a lot of information, especially, especially that machine, the dialysis machine looks so intimidating to me. And just seeing the blood, going inside the machine, it just freaked me out. So it took me a while to, it took me, I think 6 weeks to learn about dialysis. When I first started out, I was so nervous, but it's completely normal. It took me about 2 years to be, kind of comfortable. I'm still not comfortable because every time I go to a new job, they have their own policies and their own way of doing things. So I have to learn. So I get nervous, and it's that phase. You go through that phase where you you feel like you don't know anything, but it's completely normal. Make sure you ask questions. That's number 3. Make sure you ask a lot of questions. Don't repeat the questions like, I did, but because the preceptors, they don't have no time to be teaching you from scratch. They don't like that. So make sure you ask a lot of questions. If you feel uncomfortable about something, if you feel uncomfortable about a medication, ask questions. Better than killing a patient or causing the patient harm. So it's better to ask questions so you know exactly what you're doing. Even if you don't feel comfortable, make sure you ask another nurse to accompany you while you're giving that medication. It's better to be safe than sorry. To work, make sure you're 30 minutes early so you could take report, so you could park, take report, relax, and just walk around, learn your patients. Make sure you come in early. It's better that way because when you're gonna start the shift, you feel confident. Make sure you're at work early, take report, do whatever you gotta do, and then start your shift. Make sure the day before you go to work, make sure you get some sleep because you're gonna work long shifts, long hours, like 12 hours and plus. I know in dialysis, I would work more than 16 hours. So before I go to work, the day before work, I make sure I rest. You make sure you're well rested before you go to work because being well rested is going to help you to retain information that they're going to throw at you that you need to know. So make sure you're number 5, make sure you know where your resources are. Like, make sure you know where everything is. When you're doing orientation, make sure you write down everything, where your med room is at, where everything is at, because if something happens, you don't want to stop and ask, waste time. Make sure you know where everything is at. Tip number 6. When I first started out, I had issues with time management. As new nurses, when we have a lot of patients, we tend to go back and forth, back and forth, which is a huge time waster. So make sure your tasks together so that you don't go back and forth into a patient's room and waste time. So make sure when you go to a room, when you're gonna go to a patient's room, you stop and think about what that patient may need. Maybe blankets, maybe once you're gonna pass out your meds, make sure you have everything that you think the patients will need, so you don't spend so much time going back and forth their room. Oh my God, when I first started out, I had a huge problem with time management. I remember I would go to a patient, take assessment, and then leave. When the patient will call me back, can I have this? Can I have that? I would go back and forth. I wasted so much time. And then by the time I went home, I was exhausted. I just took a shower and went straight to bed for like two days because I was so tired, because I did not know how to prioritize. Make sure you cluster your task all together so that when you go into a room, you know exactly what that patient need. You don't have to go back and forth. Ask the patient, do you need anything? Do you need a blanket? What can I do for you? So that's a good tip. That right there is like big. Time management is everything. Before I became an RN, I was an LPN. I used to work at a nursing home, and I remember documentation was a huge issue for me. Try to document in between time. Every information you get, document about it so that you don't forget about it. If you forget about it, it's already documented. And then once your shift is over, you document a little bit, and then that's it. You go home. I used to wait until the end of my shift to document, and let me tell you, that used to set me back like major. And I had to learn the hard way, but now I've mastered it. Make sure you document properly, and make sure you document in a timely manner. So it's very important to document in between patients. Whatever you find, whatever information you get about a patient, document, and then go to the next patient, document, go to the next patient until the end of your shift. You document the remaining information that you get. That's where taking notes come to play. When you find out something, write it down and then go document in between patients. So and then before the end of your shift, you complete your documentation, and then boom, you're all good. Yeah, so being afraid and being anxious is totally normal. So don't freak out, and just ask a lot of questions, make the best of it, take notes. Once you take notes, you're gonna be okay. And it takes about, in my opinion, it takes about 2 years for a new nurse to be comfortable. 2 years plus, not even 2 years, 2 years plus, because it took me a long time for me to be comfortable. And still till this day, I'm nervous when I go somewhere new. I get nervous. Oh, and one more tip, make sure you know the staff. Make sure you're nice. When you start working, make sure you're nice so that when you have a problem, you get help. Learn everybody's names, and then just be nice so that when you have an issue, you have a problem, everybody helps you. Make sure you get to know your physician so that your physician is comfortable with you when he calls for an order. It's not always, the physicians are not always nice, but some of them are nice. Some of them are weird, but some of them are. Another thing, be strong, have thick skin, because in nursing, you're gonna go through a lot, because a lot of nurses, some of them are burned out, and some of them project their problems out on you. So just ignore if you don't like, if an environment becomes toxic. You're always welcome to quit and work somewhere else. So it's your world. Don't be afraid. And that's all the tips that I have for you today. So see you on the next video.